It's a beautiful thing to start the day with, but you can really use it any time in the day. It only takes a few moments, and I will walk you through it now. It's a little practice called the inner smile. Um, and you probably have had that experience that when someone smiles genuinely at you, it's contagious and you want to smile back. So you're offering this beautiful, loving smile to yourself. So we'll just close our eyes and we'll start with taking some really nice deep breaths. If you can breathe in through your belly and expand your chest, that is really great. Feel free to like make sounds as you exhale. It's always really good. Do one more nice, long, slow one. And then you're just gonna keep breathing comfortable, slow breath. And you're gonna kind of start in your eyes, just imagining. You can do this in different ways, and you'll find the way that works best for you. Sometimes it works to imagine someone, even yourself, smiling at your own body. For me, it's all internal, like I'm smiling, but I'm directing that smile and that love at my eyes. Um, and we're going to just work through our body. And so, first, you just want to feel that warmth and love that happens when you really want to smile, when something has tickled your heart. And you're going to direct that and let your eyes just relax and fill with that feeling. And when we relax our eyes, it automatically triggers a full body relaxation. It's a great way to just immediately reduce your anxiety. So with each breath, just start smiling. You can smile at your thoughts. And the smile can also be a thing of gratitude. Like thank you for this sight. Thank you for these thoughts. Thank you for this voice and this throat. And you just keep going down, smiling at your lungs, at your all the veins that run through your body, bringing you all the energy for life. Smile into your heart, into your stomach, all of your inner organs found in your abdomen. Smile into your shoulders, into your spine, your back, your hips. Smile into your pelvis, into your thighs, your knees, your calves. Smile right into the soles of your feet and your toes. Always makes me want to wiggle them into your fingertips. And take another long, deep breath and feel your whole being smile outwardly into the world. And when you feel ready, open your eyes and be here now.
Thank you. We're always able to receive information a little bit easier when we're in a relaxed state. So thank you for that. Yeah. We're going to jump right into what is rhythm. Rhythm is the fluctuation between doing and being. It is the inhale, which is a contraction, which is an activation. It is an exhale, which is the release, which is relaxing. It is the letting go. It's the state of being. So when we have a balance between doing and being, activity and rest, then we can feel calmer and more centered and have a greater access to reason and patience, which we all need when we have little ones at home. So when we stay in a place of activity for too long, then we can become overstimulated and spin out. And you can think of that. I mean, this is true for us as adults, but if you think about it with your children, if they've been playing all day and they haven't had a moment to come back into themselves and rest, is often when we see the overstimulation. Something like super simple, everyday example of that would be when we take them on errands for 6 hours a day to get a bunch of stuff done, and then you come home and like everything falls apart. There's massive meltdown, or they don't get the time to to have a rest or a nap or anything, and then it's just like going all day, and then at some point everybody hits the wall and crap just hits the fan, and it's like a meltdown in the family. If we stay in the place of rest for too long, then there's all this pent-up energy, right? Stuff that doesn't get expressed in a healthy way. It needs to come out. There needs to be activity. So then we end up hitting your brother or your sister, or like throwing something against the wall, or if you're talking about like little babies, then if they're not getting that, well, not little babies, they like a lot of rest, but there needs to be this ebb and flow throughout the day of doing and rest, so that we can find that balance, and we can always find it comes back to center. Mm-hmm. This rhythm is partially determined by what we call anchor points, and we'll go more into what anchor points are. But anchor points are the places in the day that are the most consistent, that everything else revolves around. But those anchor points are the grounding points of the day. Mm-hmm. When we have these anchor points that are placed and are consistent throughout the day, consistency creates predictability, and predictability creates trust, which soothes the nervous system, not just for us as adults, but also for our children. They can trust and lean into the day and feel taken care of. They know what comes next, and there's not this anxiety or constant questioning or need to connect to you all the time as the anchor point. The other thing about rhythm, so we have the fact that it brings balance to the day through activity and being. We have that there's a lot of flexibility around the day of what can happen, but there are anchor points that ground us into the day. We have that it's consistent, creates predictability, and builds trust and ease. I don't know how to turn that off. And then we have the fact that all of those pieces together create an additional authority in the home. So your rhythm is like the third parent. It is the thing that so that you don't always have to be the one that says, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. You have to do this. You have to do that. You can say, this is what we do, because this is the rhythm that has been created, so that you're not always responsible for how the day is going to go. It's a system that you create, and it's a system the whole family can rely upon, and takes you out of the equation sometimes, more often. More often.
More often, yeah.
More often, yes. So that, so that is what rhythm is. And then there's what rhythm isn't.
Yeah.
Miss Emily is going to take this.
Yeah. So when we're working with rhythm, we're moving from that concept of scheduling. We're all often used to schedules, but a rhythm is not dependent on clock time. That's the real difference here, is you're establishing this flow, this consistent, like this activity follows this activity and then moves into that activity. But they're not time dependent. So you don't have to do the same activity at 9 o'clock every morning. If your daily rhythm starts with breakfast and you sleep in, breakfast still happens first, and the rest of your day continues its rhythm, but it might have shorter periods of time, or some activities you might find you can let go of completely. So rhythm is not strict and it's not rigid. If you are feeling stuck and obliged to doing something, then you haven't created a rhythm. It's really a flow. It's a river, and when it's established firmly, which takes some time, it does become that other authority, as Michelle was saying. It's you know what happens next, so you can always be relaxed in what you are doing now. So it really is allowing this ability to drop in with presence, and you can rest your anxious mind as adults about what comes next, because you know, and when you move into that next thing, that is the time to think about it. So yeah, we're moving out of that dependency on the clock. We're establishing a flow. Every rhythm is going to be different for every family, and this is really about tapping in to what your family's needs are, what your needs are, what your boundaries are, and where your skills and assets are. And so it's going to take some observation, but you're really honoring the uniqueness of your family, not just doing things because you've been told that it's going to work or that's what you should be doing. So it takes some cultivating your intuition, and it takes some observation, but it's totally doable. And what I've found, because as a teacher, rhythm is the foundation of my classroom, that it really eliminates almost all behavioral issues. So, and in that sense of being the other authority, the example of that is, when a child is asking like why they have to do that, it's just so simply easy to say, because we always put our toys away when we're done playing. Because that's the rhythm that has established, and they know that that is what we actually always do. Um, there's that consistency.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe we go into talking about the anchor points.
Yeah,
And
I wanted to add one more thing about what rhythm is, that I forgot to mention is, it allows us as parents a little bit more freedom and less anxiety because you don't have to reinvent every day.
Mhm.
When we wake up, especially like, oh my God, when you wake up and it's just endless days with your children, like they are right now, and you have so many other things that you need to take care of, and you wake up and you're like, how are we going to get through this day?
Mm.
How is this day going to be managed? But if you create a rhythm, you have a foundation that is already set, and so much of it you don't have to think about or recreate each day, waking up wondering what this day is going to be like. And that frees up so much energy and eases anxiety significantly. And then, as Emily was saying, allows you to be more present so that you can actually handle what is in front of you at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. But so we're going to get into the details of it. So that was the overview of what rhythm is and what it isn't. And the anchor points in the day, what that looks like. So an anchor point is usually the moments where you eat, where you sleep, and where you have time outside in nature / connection, right? Because our children always have to have points of connection with us. And it's really hard to remember as we are spinning in our adult world, getting work done and housework done and all of the responsibilities and tasks that we need to accomplish every day, how much they need to connect with us at different intervals throughout the day. So it's a really key piece. Oftentimes when you see your kids at whatever age starting to spin out and like, hitting you on your leg, or what do I want a snack, I want a snack, I want a snack, what am I going to eat, what about, that whole thing. It's usually because they want just a minute with you. And by taking just a few minutes and having these places that are your anchor points throughout the day where they know they can rely on to connect with you, again, eases so much conflict in the home right off the bat.
Mhm.
So these anchor points is what the day is built around. They're kind of your pillars.
Mhm.
They are the pieces of predictability and consistency that we want. So they are, as Emily said, they are activity based. They are not time based. However, the closer you can get to having, breakfast at a similar time, the better. But it's not a pressure in like, I have to set my alarm clock so that I can be up. It's just that is your first activity of the day. Your lunch is always around the same time or in the same order of activities, same as your dinner and what time bed is, and when you have your outside time or connection time as a family. And then there are the daily activities, which are the things that flow around the anchor points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, with the anchor points, that idea of pillars is really great. Because the rhythm, if it's a river, it can flow around the pillars, but the pillars remain your those are your grounding moments, and those are a little bit more time specific. Not that lunch has to be at noon every single day, but those are the ones as your anchor points you're not going to give up. Like other parts of your day, you can often drop away if necessary, but when we sleep, when we need rest, when we need to eat, especially with children, those are your essentials. And when we find time for connection, those are the things that you will always hold on to. And the daily activities are all of the other plethora of things that we as parents and children have as responsibilities through our day. So that includes our work schedule if we're now working from home. It's our house care, our laundry, our cooking meals, our grocery shopping, our cleaning house, whatever that is. It's making sure that we have time for self-care, for couple care if we're in a relationship, for family time. It's all of those things. And, depending on the age of your child, they have their own needs of free play, or if they're in school, doing time for their schoolwork. So all of those things are just going to flow and weave around those pillars. And they can change every day. If we start our day with breakfast, for example, and we notice that in our family we're most productive after we eat breakfast, then you might want to immediately move into house care. Like that's the time to get work done. Or if you have to go to work, that's the time for me to get work done. And then setting up activities for your children to either help with that or to be occupied on their own. So one thing about the anchors, which I think we'll get into, but it's really going to take some observation of your family to find out where those anchors are going to be best placed. So I think we could start getting into how to start. What do you think, Michelle?
Yes, I think that's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We don't have as many people on the call as I thought. I just want to touch base really quick. Does anybody have any questions that are preventing them from moving forward? Like that was just too confusing. They need any clarification before we move into how we're going to actually get this done. No. Yeah. No? Oh. Okay.
I just have one. The only thing that popped up for me is just I feel like my kids, I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they're just on completely different. Mm-hmm. They're just, the only time they're really together is when they're playing together and enjoying that, and then the rest of the time their schedules are just not the same. So, but I'm sure you'll cover that. So that's
okay.
I'm gonna take a note of that, and then to come back around to that when we're done.
Okay. All right. So the way, because this is a different way of looking at your day, it will take some time, one, to implement, of course, but before we even start making this shift in your family, what you want to do is see, and you may know this already, but if you don't, you really want to take the time to observe your family from a little bit of a distance and see where these anchor points might need to go. And that is going to be that there's a very unique piece that is for your family. You're really going to want to start by observing and noticing where people are, where your children are tired, where they're getting hungry, what part of the day everything starts to go sideways, where they're needing to connect with you. And you'll probably find that there will be some repetitive patterns. So we highly recommend just taking 2 days before you implement any of this and taking notes and being like, oh yeah, it's like at 3 o'clock every day, everybody gets really, really cranky. Or my family, the kids wake up starving at 7 o'clock. And these are often things that we know somewhere, but we haven't brought a full awareness to, right? Into what needs actually need to be met during these times. So, so just starting by observing and really noticing and taking notes. What is happening during the day with my family? Where are my kids really needing me? Where are they needing to eat? When are they getting tired and starting to like spin out? Yeah.
When is there conflict?
Yeah.
When do things not feel good? Or you even find yourself as a parent getting really frustrated. Yeah, notice all of those things because they're all telling you something and they're giving you insight of things that could be shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there's some questions as you're doing this observation, some reflection questions that you can ask yourself as you're going through your day and you're noticing these different feelings come up. You're noticing these different areas of conflict. You're noticing where you're getting exhausted and tired and overwhelmed and depleted.
Yeah.
So we really want to bring our attention to those places as well, because of the fact that the way that our family constellation works is that when we as parents are frustrated, depleted, empty, and exhausted, our nervous systems get heightened. They start to go into that fight or flight mode, right? When we start to become depleted and we get frustrated. And our children regulate to our nervous systems. So if we are out of sync, then our children will be out of sync. Now, this is not, again, not a thing of like, oh, well, I have to be the perfect parent and I have to be regulated all the time. What this is actually is permission to fill your cup first, to take care of you first. Because if you are feeling good and full and whole, I mean, as much as possible, we're humans, we live in a crazy time. So, you know, again, no, don't set expectations too high. But if you're noticing that you are starting to hit that wall, do something for you. And that actually takes care of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here, the reflection questions.
Yeah. So these are a few questions I find really useful whenever. So in this process, you're going to start with observation. And if at the end of the day you can find some time to reflect on your observations, that will be really helpful. And these are some of the questions you can start asking yourself. Some of these questions are really great once we get in the habit of doing it, to ask ourselves even in the moment that we find ourselves frustrated. But until we're ready to do that part, you can always do it at the end of the day. You notice, oh, I got really frustrated at this time, and now I can reflect and ask these questions of myself. The first question I really like is, especially in a moment of challenge, do I feel connected to my center? or my strength, my own wisdom. Whatever word fits for you, you can put there, but am I feeling connected? Is my body sending me a message would be the second question. Whenever we feel uptight, whatever emotion or sensation we are experiencing is our body's communication to us to give us a bit of information and feedback. And we can choose to listen to it and find out what it is needing. Is this activity, whatever this might be, is it serving the well-being of my family? What is my personal relationship to this activity? Maybe it does serve the family, but I hate it. Those are all realities. So asking yourself and getting clarification on that. And is this an activity I'm willing to let go of just for now? It is easy to fill our lives with lots of doing. There are always things that demand our attention. But some of those things are not necessary in this moment. They can always be returned to when you're ready. So those are some points of reflection when you're taking your observational notes to look at that. Those are especially good for any sticky things that just don't feel like they're flowing right. You have two different children that need two different things. How are you going to manage that? If you take some time to reflect with these and maybe some other questions that come up on your own, I think it'll help you start noticing where those moments in your day need a different rhythm. They need to move into something else. Yeah.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say about that.
Yeah.
And I completely lost it. Maybe it will come back, because the harder I try to think about it, the farther away it's going to go.
Yeah.
So an example of what this could look like, and this is going to be a very broad example because we have parents here with 8 months old, all the way from 8 months to
Adult.
Adult, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give an example of what this could look like. So you wake up, you start your day with breakfast, because generally everybody's hungry in the morning. Depending on how old your children are, you could have had things set up for them to make their own breakfast, depending on what your needs are, and if you're a working parent, or you just don't want to have that responsibility anymore because they're old enough to have it themselves. But it also can be a time, like breakfast could be a time where you start your day in connection. So like maybe if you're a working parent and you're going to have a long day of being occupied with other things, breakfast might be the place where the children have an opportunity to fill their cup with you, because that nagging at you is really them wanting to fill themselves with your care, really.
Mm.
So starting with breakfast, let's just say, and then there is the breakfast, the activity of breakfast is actually like an inhale. It's a doing, it's a contraction, it's a coming together, it's a holding of yourself in a certain place. And then there's time for expansion, right? So possibly, we're just saying that this is a example of how it could go. So then there's the expansion. So then there's some downtime for them to maybe play or do an activity, or to maybe like read a book, or something that has some rest to it. And then there might be the time where there's a little break in your work day and you're like, okay, let's all go outside in the backyard and we're going to do something together for 10 minutes, right? So that they get the connection with you and they're not going to come to you in the middle of your work day, sort of, you know, knocking at you, needing you, right? So you've already kind of headed that off at the pass because you filled their cup already after some period of time apart. And then you go back. So now I need to go do my work and you're going to go do your work. So depending on what that is, for a younger child, it's going to be something different. For an older child, it might be their homework. It might be something happening around doing their chores. And then there will be that coming together again, maybe for lunch. Emily, are you frozen? She looks very frozen. Like the movie. I wonder if she lost her connection. Maybe she'll come back. Okay. Yep. I'll trust that she'll come back. And so then you might come together for lunch, or again, you might be giving them that activity as something that they can handle for lunch. That could be another anchor point. So you've got breakfast, things are moving around between breakfast and lunch about what needs to be done, whether it's chores, whether it's free play. There might be a moment of connection for you outside. You've had lunch together, that's another anchor point. And then there's that space of where other responsibilities and tasks are going to be handled. And again, if you have older children, that might be, taking care of something around the house. It might be time for reading. It might be, depending on what your children are needing, if they're needing rest or activity after lunch. And then, again, meal times being another anchor. Then you have dinner and you have some sort of routine for bedtime. Even if the children are older, your bedtime routine is going to look very different than a younger child, but you're still going to have some things in place that are going to, again, be that authority that you can rest into, because now it's time to get ready to go to sleep and we're winding the day down. I know you have some stuff to add in there, Emily.
Yeah, I will do my best. I lost connection and I had to come back in, so I missed some of what you were saying.
I was just talking about like the meal points being the anchors, the different responsibilities and tasks that can weave around those. What an example of that might look like. You have a somewhat middle range child, and so how do you set up your day?
Very similar. So there's always the anchor points of really meal times are our anchor points, and rest times, sleep and waking. And here we are with no school to go to at this point. And so everything is a little bit more loose and forgiving, and we don't keep a waking schedule like we did before. She can wake as she feels ready, but then we continue with our rhythm through the day. We start with breakfast and then into schoolwork. But so you have your anchor points, and then really you guys will develop through your own observations what activities are going to flow around those points, but you're really looking at it as these blocks of time of, this is my morning block of my personal parent work. This is the morning block of this particular child's schoolwork, because that is what they need to get done. This is this morning block of time for my little one to play and help with housework. So you're really just creating blocks of time, and those blocks are interchangeable according to our needs and according to what needs to happen through the week. Um, so our house care block might be a laundry day. It might be a shopping day. It might be a vacuuming day. And then, I mean, there's a lot. We can't go into all the details here in this short little window. And we'll talk about other ways that we can work with you. But yeah, there's so many things of how to help your children help you in that work and get your tasks done as well. But yeah, so anchor points, blocks of time, and making sure that as this keeper of the rhythm, this, as parents, depending on what age we are working with, we're either the kings and queens of the house or we're the governors of the house. And we have to fill our cups first. And Michelle did speak to this. So one thing I always encourage people in starting a new rhythm, the way that we start our day sets the impulse for the rest of your day. So if we as parents who are upholding all of these laws of our nation in our household, if we start our day by doing something that we find pleasurable, that brings us joy and nourishment, then we have just set the tone for our whole family to have that for the rest of the day. So I really encourage, as you start to create your own rhythm, that be a starting point for everyone. And helping your family to find those things for themselves as well. And that will come up in your observations. So yeah, that's what popped in my head.
I remembered what I was gonna. I remembered what I was going to say, because you touched on it a little bit, in that that idea of letting something go if it's not working.
Yeah.
Because we often feel as parents, so often we're trying to hold our place of authority so that they are doing what we ask so that we can get something done. That when we decide that it's not working, sometimes we have a hard time letting go of the fact that it's not working, because we're trying to remain in that seat of authority. And it's okay to be like, to recognize, oh, this is actually creating a tremendous amount of conflict. This is not feeling good for anyone. And it's okay to say, you know what, actually, I changed my mind. I'm just, if you need to go do this other thing, that's fine. You go do that. We'll come back to this later. And that is not something, first of all, that I don't think we're like taught that much, that we can choose to backtrack and redecide our path in that moment. Like, it's totally okay. So, and do something that you love, instead of making sure that you're forcing everybody to do this thing that's really not working for everybody.
Yeah, and that reminds me of what we wanted to share in starting a new rhythm. One, you're going to get pushback from your little ones if you're trying to start something new. It's going to happen. So be prepared, expect it, and stay the course. Just know that it is part of the process. Whenever there is a shift and there's a change, It brings uncertainty. Boundaries have to be reestablished, and children are excellent at pushing until they find those boundaries. But generally, after 3 days, they know what's happening because you've been consistent. And then by the 7th day, they can fully relax into this new rhythm. So yeah, expect some pushback. Start simple, and and start with, after your time of observation and you want to make changes to, because you've noticed, oh, these things aren't flowing, this is where we're having challenges, this is where our children have completely different needs. You're formulating this new pathway, but start with simple, achievable changes first. Set yourself up and your family up for success. And then you build a momentum where the shift and change is so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just by picking one thing after you've done your 2 days of observation, just by picking one thing that you want to begin to implement and be consistent with that for, like, really consistent with it for 3 days, you'll start to see a shift. You might still get pushback for another few days, but usually as Emily said, by the 7th day, things will start to settle in and everybody will begin to accept that this is the new thing that you're doing. But yeah, by starting simple and not making a massive change for everybody throughout the day will set you up for success. And you will build a muscle. It's a practice. It's something new that's for some of us, this is something brand new. So it might take a little bit of time for you to get the language around it or the feeling around it, or even to really even feel the reason why you're doing this if you've never created a consistent rhythm before. So by picking just one simple thing and really seeing that through, and then you'll get to see how it begins to shift. And then you're like, okay, now I see how this is working. And you'll feel more excited about bringing in more anchor points throughout your day and more rhythm. So.
I'm just aware, I know we got started late, but I am aware of the time. One thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be emailing everyone that signed up for this. Well, I guess, is this recording coming, Michelle, through that as well?
As long as the technology worked, I pressed the record button and everybody should be getting a recording of this.
Okay, and so then
review it.
We will also be sending physical written
notes and bullet points,
highlights, worksheets that could potentially help you in building your own family rhythm.
Yep.
Yeah, this is really just a launching point to give you some new things to think about, or different ways to think about doing things that hopefully really just empower you to connect with your own wisdom and authority for your family. And but it's a lot to cover, and we can't get into details in this platform, but we do want to allow some time for some questions, because I know those can always offer greater clarity.
You do have everything that you need, though. These are all the building blocks. You have everything that you need to get started. But yes, we do have a little bit of time for specific questions.
For specific questions. If people need to hop off because they had a certain time limit, you can feel free to hop off. But we are going to answer some questions. Also, we, before we get into that, in these group settings, it's hard to work on specifics, and I know, like, that's what oftentimes we're so after, is like, but my specific situation, I need to know about this. So Michelle and I, when we pass along all this other information in the recordings, we'll have our individual contacts. We're both available for one-on-one sessions. We're doing a pay from the heart system, and we can just discuss that and work it out. We're more than happy to help you work on your individual family rhythm or anything else that comes up in your parenting. And we're hoping to do more workshops and presentations as well. So that will be forthcoming. But now let's find out what questions are percolating in everyone at this moment.
Should we address Naomi's question first?
Oh,
Because she,
yes.
yeah.
Could you, so Naomi, could you maybe tell us a little bit more about what specifically you're wondering in that way?
Well, I don't know that we have any kind of schedule at all. My son doesn't eat at the table. He snacks all day. He gets his own thing. My daughter will eat what specific things she wants at the table, but so even eating doesn't look like an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I said, that like she is a night owl. She would stay up all night if she could, and he'll put himself to bed. So we've got different wake up times. We wake up at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the school out and everything different, I don't really. The days seem like they're 18 hours long. That's where I'm at.
I hear you.
So we need some help. And, and then my daughter's her mood just changes on a dime. Like,
is your daughter the 7-year-old or
she's the 10-year-old?
The 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a
there's
good time for mood changes. Yeah.
I'm sure that's some of it. And I think that the whole togetherness of it all, I mean, normally she's apart from her brother for a good chunk of the day, and then they come home after school and play together really nice. And it's just been elongated with the time we're together. And I think that's hard, but anyway, I don't know if you have anything to add. No. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just from what you're sharing, I can already hear that you're kind of identifying some sticky points. And so I think if you do some real observation for a couple days, you might get some ideas. But from what I heard, I think it sounds like a great starting point is just defining your anchor points and being consistent with them and forming them. As a parent, you have this wonderful responsibility and blessing in that you can define those things. It doesn't have to be defined by what your children's habits are. Your children's habits will adapt. And in this time of so much being up in the air, having real consistency and stability will really serve your children. They will probably push back if you make any changes, especially 10-year-olds. They're really good at it. But especially in my daughter, whenever I would make those changes because I saw like, oh, this isn't working right now for us, she would complain amazingly. And then after a few days, she would come and say, this feels really good. I'm glad we're doing it. So just know, like, they will shift as well. Just because they are being irritable and giving pushback at this moment doesn't mean that they will continue to do it. Because they know, like, oh, this does feel better. So yeah, so it sounds like you have some observations to do, but already like a great starting point would just be one anchor point. If it's just meal times or just bedtime, just starting with one thing and bring a shift to that.
Mhm.
Do you want to add, Michelle?
No, I was thinking the exact same thing. And of course, you're going to come to the answer that's going to be best for your family, but I'll just plant this little seed that because everybody's sort of on a different schedule in the morning and a little bit of a different schedule at night, you might want to think about doing a lunch together. And yeah, because that seems like maybe a neutral point in the day, and then you can kind of build out from there. But just the fact that everybody's coming together at one point during the day is going to be, that itself is going to be a shift. So it might be a good place to start. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions, specific questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the last 3 weeks we were at home, and actually that has worked really well as far as rhythm. But of course now there's no school work, and that I don't really need 2 weeks of off time as far as the rhythm. So it's a little different of a rhythm that we're switching into now.
Yeah.
Not having that schoolwork. And what has crystallized for me as the most challenging thing to provide is to satisfy my son. So I have a 13-year-old boy with his physical activity needs. He would right now be playing 2 sports, and he helps me in the yard, and we go out for walks, and he works out with his dad some, and we're doing what we can, but it is by far not enough. And so being at the age of 13 that he is, and having all this, as Michelle, you mentioned in the beginning, this pent up energy from too much rest, which is clearly what it is, that's providing some challenges. And I'm just curious to know, can anyone think of any more, anything I can do? He had some interest in an online martial arts class, but it hasn't really gripped, and it's not part of my thing that I'm kind of enforcing. It was his own choice. Any ideas how to provide? I mean, I'm just flabbergasted at the need, the physical activity need is so great.
Yeah.
Can he build a tree house?
He already has.
How about a greenhouse? Can
I
you
could use one of them.
Build?
A building project. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, something you could get into.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he likes to do sports. He's really physical and active in that way. Is part of the hardship because now he doesn't have peers to do that with.
Well, it's added.
Yeah, like
that's all there.
I'm wondering if for him it may have served his physical but also his social needs.
Yes, for sure.
And so he might need a partner to do physical things with, and I'm wondering if you or your husband, like, is there someone willing to be his physical workout partner?
Yeah, I mean, he works out with my husband in the mornings, not every day, obviously, but here in the basement, and that's fun. And then, whatever, we're working in the yard together. That's what he and I do, and the others too. I mean, yeah, he doesn't really do anything on his own. I mean, that Kung Fu thing, I think that's part of why it's not gripping, because it was his own, it's his own project, and it's very much tied with the social aspect. But I'm seeing what comes out in playing with his sister, and that is just, there's too much physical energy that's not used up.
Well, I'm wondering too, because he's older, he's my daughter's age. I think he's at an age too where you could speak more directly about that with him. I'm wondering if you've tried that of like, hey, it seems like you need to do some movement, you need to do some physical things, and kind of put it on him as like, what do you envision that looking like? What would you like to create? Like, I'm giving you this assignment. You come up with a physical workout activity routine for yourself. If he would take up that challenge.
Yeah.
You know him better, so you know if that's something realistic.
Yeah, what I'm finding what is different in this situation now than in regular time or whatever you want to call life prior to this, is that I'm sensing a sort of apathy, like there's a resignation and a kind of sort of dejected feeling. And then, I don't know, there's a little bit of that fire missing to get things going right now.
Mhm.
But I will certainly redouble my efforts in communication. Yeah. That's always good input.
Mhm.
I have something to say about, or just one other little thought on that, but I do want to, because of our timing,
Yeah.
and if
Yeah.
anybody needs to go, that
We can move on.
well, no, I just want to no, because I want to comment on that, but I just want to open it up that if anybody needs to go, that they can pop off and
I have to pop off, but thank you. This has been so great. I can't wait to connect again soon.
Yeah, I know. So good to see you.
We miss you guys so much.
Miss you.
I'm gonna head out as well, but I'm so glad I was here. And
Oh, good.
it was really
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you. All right, bye. I was just thinking about that kind of apathy or resignation, having had a 13-year-old boy,
Mhm.
that need for purpose,
Right.
that thing that sort of drives them for like contribution. What am I contributing here? So like, that's kind of why I was thinking if there was some project that he could get on board with that provides something for the family.
Mm-hmm.
So like my son Kyle used to, like, it was a really big thing for him to, he just got into this like survival thing for a while. So
Yeah.
like, this might not be it, but he got into that, and he really wanted to make sure that we had on board all of the things that we needed in case there was emergency,
Yeah.
So I really allowed him to do the research of what that was like. So it might not be that, but something like that, where he's contributing to the whole. It gives him a project, it gives him purpose, he is helping. It addresses some of that resignation. It's like, the sort of like upright kind of like, I'm going to be the hero thing, which is so strong in a young boy.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Good thoughts. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I had an idea, Chrissy,
Yeah.
of like getting some sort of challenge going with a friend of like doing, like, I don't know, is it safe for a 13-year-old to go on their own bike ride?
Yeah, usually in normal time, he does it all the time.
You wouldn't, but you're not okay with that now?
I have not said yes to that because I'm still kind of evaluating how much responsibility I can give him with this social distancing. Because it's almost like at age 10 or 11 that there would have been a greater capacity to take on responsibility than in this very moment,
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was thinking bike rides, but it doesn't have to be that, but something with a friend where they are kind of like one-upping each other,
Yeah.
do all the sets or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
He also has a challenge going with Mark right now.
Oh, he does. I hadn't heard. Oh, good. I'll ask about that too.
Yeah. I really like that because to me, it sounds like he needs both that social and physical, like those.
He needs social so much.
Those are connected for him. And so even though he can't physically connect with all his peers, there could be this communication of these like challenges they're taking on.
He's doing a lot. He's on the phone with them. He's writing
Oh,
Dungeons and
nice.
Dragons modules with some of them. I mean, he's doing a lot socially. I think he's he's doing it, but it's that physical outlet that's been cut off. But thank you. That's giving me some good points to explore.
I just want to throw this out there. I mean, everyone's family is different, but for us, physical movement happens a lot in dance. So, and it's a great, I find dance is a great,
Yes, but
yeah, but it's a great family connection point. We like to have little dance parties, and we just crank the music really loud. Clorinda will play her favorite jams that I don't like at all. But we're just there to dance and have fun. And it's a great physical release. And because no one is watching, we can be absolutely ridiculously expressive too. Like I will totally like get my physical movement out in that capacity. And so that's another possibility that connects all of these things of family connection time, social, and the physical, and it could feed everyone.
And just to loop that all back around into rhythm, like really figuring out where those projects or tasks would be, where the physical movement is going to be best placed, like doing those big physical movement connection times it would probably, I mean, every family is different, but like for us, that mid-afternoon time, the like witching hour when everything is just like, you want to pull your hair out of your head, like from 3 to 6, like just not having so much responsibility as far as tasks and chores goes, but a little bit more fun and play and movement, like that, finding those places where to put those connection more like release kind of things. It's going to potentially be, just observe your family, see where those can go. Those blocks.
My family, though, like our connection points tend to be after dinner. Like that is our rhythm of we have dinner together, and then we have this period of time before moving towards sleep where we get to do that. And so our dance parties will happen after dinner. We do our cleanup, and then we'll do our ridiculous, whatever point of connection we're having for that evening. It's different every night. But we consistently have a point of connection after dinner and before bed. And so, and physical exertion helps us get ready for bed too. But yeah, everyone's family rhythm is going to be different. So that's the beauty, is like you can notice like this is a block that needs to fit into our rhythm, but where that fits in for my family is going to be a completely different location than someone else's family. So therefore it's not a strict schedule. It's what is working and feeding every member of the kingdom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
I just want to mention that nobody said the word TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the TV on a lot.
Yeah.
Especially lately, and they love that. But then there's this constant kind of push and pull of me saying, "All right, so turn it off," and so there's that piece that I wouldn't mind hearing about either on email or whatever resources you provide. But then the other piece that I was thinking of just now that really hit me a lot yesterday was this thing of, I'm gonna cry. This connection. It doesn't feel like it's enough. Like I'm connecting with them both. It feels like all day.
Yeah.
And there's still that acting out like it's not happening. And it's been very hard.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring those 2 points up.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
It really resonated with me when you said the pillar or the anchor point, but I was taught it as an island, which is I always imagine I'm swimming towards the island, like when everything is just nasty. I'm like, I've got no good, activities for them today. This isn't working. I'm like, lunch is in an hour and we'll all calm down and connect with each other because we know how to do that at lunch, Yeah. But I was going to say that the pillar provides that point of connection, because otherwise my note to myself is I've become a pillar. You said something to that. And I just like, so there's multiple times in the day when I'm like, guys, independence, what the heck? I mean, even my partner, I'm just like, you don't need me right now, but apparently you do. Why? How? How did we get here? And it's because I don't like to have a ton of schedule. We do very good rhythm, but there's like, now that I have to find a place for schoolwork, and I don't want to ever do it. I never want to do it. So I'm like, some days I make myself and other days I go, I can't deal. So anyways, I'm like taking advantage of this time, like, oh, they're playing together. I'm going to go have my own time. And they might just like eat lunch together. I'm going to serve them lunch in their play. And then, all of a sudden everybody needs me because we never sat down at the table like we always do. So I really resonate with that. Everybody's connected to me all day. I hear what you're saying. It's a different kind of connection than secure. Like, I'm connecting because I haven't seen you in a bit, versus what's this family doing right now? Please tell me, which I'm getting a little bit.
Yeah, well, I just want to go back to Naomi for a moment and those two things, and it ties in with that, Wendy, of when we have these blocks in our rhythm, it can eliminate much of that push and pull. So for instance, you mentioned television. If television only is available at certain times of the day or on certain days, they'll stop that push and pull for always wanting it recedes, because they know it happens at this time of the day, and up until that point of the day there are these other things that have to happen first. So if you create that container for it, once they adjust to that new container, that conflict will disappear and they will feel better in it. And the same thing with connection. If we are putting into our family rhythms points of quality connection, because there's that difference of like, not all connection is quality. And young children need some moments of, and we as adults need saturated quality connection time. And that allows for a greater expansiveness of free activity. There's less checking in with each other when we've really been saturated with something that actually helped us feel deeply connected with another. So some families, meal times are those points of connection. For other families, it might be a completely different activity, but looking at where it does happen and making sure you're really present in those moments. So it's not, we're all sitting at the table together, but I'm checking my email while you guys are eating. It's, no, we've all put away all other distractions and we're here together. And your children might have different points of connection that works better for them, because not some children connect better with an activity than sitting still. Some children need to connect with an adult by doing something together. So that's where your observation will come in to really help you see what your children are craving. Because whenever there's a a behavioral challenge, all they're really showing you is that they have a need, but they're not sure how to express it. And so that's where we get to do our detective work as parents to figure out what is that need they're really trying to get here, and how can I fit that into the rhythm so that it is met. And I always go back that your greatest resource in discovering those things is by making sure that you are full first, that you are not overdrawn, that you are really doing the self-care that you need, because you won't see those clues, you won't get that information if you're feeling depleted yourself. Does that answer or help in any sort of way?
Yeah, I think the whole schedule around the TV was part of the school schedule.
Yeah.
And that's gone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, right now we're even on spring break, so
Yeah.
they don't have anything they have to do that doesn't, I mean, seriously, 10 minutes a day that's their schoolwork right now. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, in one hand, it's a relief because
Yeah.
we, you know, the first week we had no support at all to try and do that. And then, you know, so hopefully by next week when the school's supposed to start again, it'll be the same again, where I'll be like, okay, the schoolwork has to happen first. And then, but yeah, I heard what you said.
Yeah. I mean, and you get to be that wonderful authority right now of like, yes, there's no schedules unless you create them, no rhythms unless you create them. So even though it's spring break and it's a free for all, you don't have to have it be that if it doesn't feel good for you. If you want to see more rhythm, then you can just be like, yes, it's spring break, but this is how our day flows. And with a 10-year-old, you can write that out and they can look at it and be like, oh, yep, not time for that. And it's really helpful. And even getting their input of like, what activities do you want to do in this day? You can, a 10-year-old, you can give assignments to, and they can come up with their own rhythms and schedules too, which is pretty fun. And then they feel empowered as well. You can just like, what are the things that you want to have happen during the week in your spring break?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And we'll follow up with some more reading, a recording, hopefully that worked, and other things for resources to help.
Yeah. Points of connection.
Can you tell Mike hi?
I will. I'll say hi.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.